We are counting down to tomorrow's big Apple event. Those shares are down 1% ahead of that event today. In its first in-person launch since the pandemic, the tech giant is set to unveil the iPhone version 14. It's the newest edition, by the way, for that. And then the newest edition of the Apple Watch and possibly a virtual reality headset and hardware subscription service. That all kicks off tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific. We're also expected to hear from CEO Tim Cook at the Code Conference out in Beverly Hills tomorrow night. And that's where our own very own Dan Nathan is right now. That's where you've been seeing him all show with that pretty shot in the background. It is Beverly Hills. Dan, what's the buzz like on the ground in California out there about Apple's big event coming up tomorrow?
Yeah, so I mean, listen, we know the drill here. You know, the phones are likely to be iterative. We all know that. You don't have to come to a conference to kind of figure that out here. But I think the big news is really that hardware subscription and the idea of kind of smoothing out those product cycles and getting people to pay a recurring fee for that. And then the idea of also kind of adding on a bunch of services, right? So to me, that's going to be the big news for that. As far as the mood out here, I think it's generally pretty optimistic. That's kind of the Silicon Valley way. I know we're down here in LA, but generally I think a lot of these private market investors tend to be a lot more optimistic than some of our brethren out there on Wall Street, especially when you see the sort of devastation we're seeing in a lot of public tech stocks right now. But I'll be back tomorrow, Dom, and I'm going to have a lot more from here.
All right, so at the Code Conference, I mean, Apple's obviously a big topic of discussion, Dan. If you look at the slate coming from the Code Conference, yeah. Who are you most excited to kind of hear from with that big slate of speakers they got in the next couple of days here?
Well, I think Andy Jassy, you know, the CEO of Amazon, is going to be really interesting. We were talking about some of the relative strength of some of the mega cap tech stocks. This is one that had a monster rally. I think it was up 50% from its June lows, had a report that I obviously kind of turned the tide, at least as far as investor sentiment. So I think more Jassy out there in front of investors in the tech community is going to be a good thing for that stock. And then also really interesting to see Tim Cook and Johnny Ive here and talk about product roadmap. Possibly, they don't say much about it, but the fact that Johnny Ive will be here, he still kind of, I think, consults a little bit on the design. And I think a lot of hardcore Apple fans want to see some really cool new hardware products that they have not gotten really since AirPods or the Watch.